Hello, welcome one and all to the 30th episode of Dylan Explains Everything. My name's Dylan. In case you couldn't tell by the title, I'm Dylan explaining everything, including the topic of today, every reason you should move to Norway, or at least a good chunk of them. There's a lot more reasons that I couldn't discuss just because of room on my whiteboard over there, but you should definitely go check them out, because I wasn't able to list all of my sources, so you're going to have to do some Googling for yourself to find the other reasons that you should move to Norway, as well as to find some of the negatives, because there are some, but I'm not going to talk about them here. The first reason is the happiness. Now, the UN actually does a study to see what the happiest countries in the world are, and Norway has always gotten within the top 5, and before this year, it's mostly in the top 4. The only countries that actually beat it are other Nordic or Scandinavian countries like Finland or Sweden or Denmark or sometimes Iceland. But this is the score that they've gotten, basically. So in 2012, they were the third most happy country. And then 2013, they were second. 2014, they were second. 2015, they were fourth. 2016, they were fourth. 2017, they were first. 2018, they were second. 2019, they were third. And 2020, they were fifth. The country that has actually gotten first place fairly consistently is Finland. So that's another country that tends to be pretty high in all of these categories. So I definitely recommend you go check out them too. The next reason I have is they are, as far as I could tell, and this might even be better by some sources, they have the second best mobile speeds on the internet. So theirs is 74.34 megabytes per second, which is pretty close to the highest one, which I believe is in the 110s-ish. So it's not that far behind, and they're still improving pretty much every year. The next reason I have is they've got free universal health care. You don't have to pay for it. In some cases, there's a little bit of room where you do have to pay for some things, but normally most of it, if not all of it, is covered under health care. The next thing is their education system. Now, in order to research this, I had to look up what the best countries were as far as education goes, and it was very difficult because a lot of places put the US as first place, and that's normally how you can tell that they're way off, because there's no way the US is in first place. But Norway, according to the UN, was 19th in science, 15th in math, and 9th in reading. So they were actually really, really high. The next category is they have the best democracy in the world since we started ranking democracies in about 2010. So, once again, the closest countries are the other Nordic or Scandinavian countries like Finland, but they have consistently gotten a very high score. Next thing, their life expectancy is about 82 and a half years. Now, this is one of the biggest life expectancies in the world, and part of the reason why they live so long is something that we'll get to in a second, including the next thing, which is their average salary. The best estimate I could find said that their average salary was about $84,000 US a year. That's kind of insane. That's way more than the US's average is. The next thing we have is their population size. Now, some people might even consider this a negative. Personally, I think only having 5 million people in a country is pretty great. There's less people causing less problems in the entire country. So overall, less people tends to be pretty good. Plus, each person has a bigger say in the way the country is run, which helps out their democracy. Most of the people there speak English. So if you were to move there, like I'm making the case that you definitely should, you wouldn't actually have that big of a problem. Plus, Norwegian, very similar to German. And German is basically the base language of English. So it wouldn't actually be that hard to learn, especially if you're good at learning languages. But even if you didn't want to, most people know English anyway. The next thing we have here is that they have almost no natural disasters. You never hear about some huge thing going on in Norway. They're mostly just having a good time without anything. And their weather is also pretty nice. They've got pretty much average temperatures year round. I'm pretty sure they have 4 seasons, but it might vary depending on where you live in Norway. Most people live in the southern part, where there tends to be a bit less diversity. But overall, the weather there is pretty nice year round. The next thing we have, they have 9 political parties. Now, the thing is, right, with 9 political parties, some people might think that's bad. This is a very good thing. This means that if your beliefs don't necessarily align with one party, there's tons of other ones to pick from. You're most likely going to have a political party that matches your beliefs. So you can go with that one. Plus, their voting system actually guarantees as long as your party has a 4% or higher vote, they will win a seat on the parliament. Now, next up, we've got something pretty cool that has to do with families. So, for fathers, new fathers get 12 weeks paid leave within the first 3 years of their new child's birth. Now, this is a lot more than most dads get in the US, which is about that much. So, this is pretty good. The next thing we get, which also kind of has to do with a family, but more or less just aging, is their state pension. After the age of 67, you can get $1,000 a month as a state pension, which is pretty darn good. The next thing we have is they actually work much less time than most countries do per week, 37.5 hours every average week, which is actually pretty good, especially since they're getting paid a crap ton more a year. Now, you could argue that some of the stuff there is more expensive, but you know, you're going to make more money, you're going to be spending less money on a lot of things, and therefore it's okay that some things are a bit more expensive. There's an average of 25-day-long paid holidays. That's a lot more than a lot of jobs give. 25-day-long paid holidays is pretty insane. Going along with this kind of theme of money is they have almost no debt. It is a very small portion of their gross domestic product. And they have a bustling economy. They've got one of the best economies in the entire world. This makes sense considering they have almost no debt. So why would they have a bad economy if they have almost no debt? And they're making a ton of money because of offshore oil rigs and stuff. The next thing, you get, in a lot of places, free parking, and in some cases, tax breaks just for owning an electric car like a Tesla. They encourage green energy, and as we'll get to in a second, their carbon footprint is actually pretty low because they tend to focus more on green energy. And so in order to get more people to use energy rather than gas, they encourage people to get electrics, and they have some of the most electric cars per country in the world. Next up, we have only 4,000 prisoners in the entire country, about. And their prison system is way better. They have almost zero double crimes where people get out of prison and immediately commit another crime. Almost none of it. This is because their prison system doesn't just lock people up for doing things wrong, but also tries to improve them in a lot of areas, making them better suited for society. The next thing we have is their CO2 emissions. Over the years, their CO2 emissions have actually gone down a lot. They're decreasing pretty much every year. And it's predicted that it's just going to keep going down and down until they almost have no CO2 emissions. And finally, and probably the biggest thing for a lot of people, is they have free university education. There's no paying to go to university. No. It's completely free. So, if you guys think that you should move to Norway right now, welcome to the club. This is my reasoning for why we should all just move to Norway at some point. I mean, it's pretty great there. I have yet to find something really bad about Norway. So, that's my video for this week. I hope you all enjoyed. If you did, be sure to let me know. If you have any thoughts, questions, or suggestions, be sure to leave them in the comments below. And remember, my name's Dylan, and I explain everything.